Hi everyone, before I get into today's video, I'm just going to quickly say I'm sorry I didn't get a video out last week. Personal reasons, I didn't feel it was right to upload last week after certain things happened in my life, and so that's all I'm going to say, but I'm sorry I didn't upload last week. I hope you enjoy this week's. Let's crack on with it. Hi everyone, Emily here again today. But I'm sort of speaking on behalf of everyone today, because although it was like more than 3 years ago as far as I'm aware, I wanted to talk about my review or my feelings about the film Split. It's sort of the most well-known film that's about DID, and I watched it again recently to sort of see if it's as bad as I really remember, and I've got some things to say about it. So what I have to say might seem a little bit contrary to what a lot of other people with DID say, because I think that for a lot of it, and I guess this is my biggest problem with it, is that for a lot of the film it's fairly accurate. The way we personally took the film is that there's a system with DID that then gets infiltrated by the Beast, which is a separate thing. So if you think about it, you know, in this comic book universe, to us, the Beast is part of that, it's a villain, and this system is something separate. So if you look at it like that, and if they made that very clear and distinct, I think it wouldn't have been as bad or as hurtful, because then it places the system as a victim yet again. The reason it's fairly accurate is because through the therapy, with the therapist, she discusses a lot of things that are very true about people with DID. The way that the actor portrays the different alters, and the way they are portrayed as completely different individual people, is very accurate. I know one of my younger alters, Peter, he really identified with Hedwig, which is the little boy in the system, and he felt really sorry for him, because he just wants to be accepted. And that is a sad reality for people with DID, that, you know, the littles or the younger alters aren't accepted and can't be themselves in wider society, so that made Peter feel sad. It's also accurate in the way that it portrays the switches, and for example, one of the characters switches in a train station, and you sort of, the way that they film it is you just are suddenly in the train station, you don't know why you're there, like they've just started filming there, and one of the characters thanks one of the other alters. Again, quite well showing that people with dissociative amnesia experience switches that way. The fact that they even go so far as to show the fact that these alters come from trauma, childhood trauma, and they show that, and they show why some of the alters are there as a direct response to this childhood trauma. It's all very accurate. Most things about the system are pretty accurate. And also the therapist lady talks about real life examples of DID. For example, she brings up an anecdote about a person with DID who has a dog, and they train the dog very well, and it waits outside, the threshold, and then the person switches to a different alter, and the dog hasn't been trained by this alter, so comes running up and is very excited. That's a real life thing. That happened. That's not fiction. So the fact that they tie that truth and the way that each alter has a slightly different brain chemistry, or as far as I believe, because it's physically shown. So they tie this truth in with the beast, and it's really frustrating because the chances of somebody with DID doing anything damaging is usually going to be to themselves because it's a trauma-based response. People who suffer with DID often suffer with depression or anxiety, and it's not easy on the person with DID always. And of course DID can make, friendships, relationships, basically interpersonal relationships can be a little bit more difficult, but the likelihood is of somebody with DID kidnapping 3 girls, keeping them in this underground location, it's extremely unlikely. And the big problem is it just paints, to people that don't know or know much about DID, it portrays DID as this one way, that people with DID are somehow maybe dangerous because you don't know all of the alters, and one of the alters could be the evil one. It's something that a lot of people with DID get asked a lot is, do I need to be nervous about one of your alters wanting to cause me harm? So it's worse because they mix in the truth with the fiction. I wish they had just said that this is a system, and then the beast had somehow entered into the mix later on, and that was when the system divided, because the beast basically convinces 2 of the alters to help him, and so they push all the other alters away, and they take control because they've been sort of convinced by this beast. I wish that had been made so much more obvious, that the beast wasn't an alter. The beast is not an alter, it's some fictional monster, and that it's separate from this system, but they don't portray it that way, and in fact sort of allude to the fact that it's just another alter, and that's where it becomes very bothersome, and it's affected hundreds of people with DID. I'll link to some videos that came out, at a more relevant time to the film, because obviously I'm watching this and reacting to this years later. But it's affected people, and it's not fair that, that one of the most popular ways that DID is presented is that we're villains, and it's a shame that mental illness is often used as, they're the villains. I wish it wasn't that way. But yeah, ways that they present the different alters. I wish they didn't have such quick changes as well. For example, when we switch, we don't immediately change clothes. But they did show very well, the actor showed very well these different alters, these different people acting in different ways. It showed very well how an alter can potentially pretend to be the host or a different alter. It was very good. The way that he presented these other alters was really good, and that's why we, for example, Peter was able to identify with one of them. It was very moving that basically the whole motivation for this was to be accepted and to be understood by society. But then they had to bring in the beast. I just wish that they could have done, the whole thing just around the DID, rather than bringing in the fiction. But of course it had to tie into the rest of it. Again, I wouldn't have minded if they had made it far more separate. It's a shame that negative tropes about mental illness are the ones that are remembered and are the ones that are much more popular. For example, apparently there's a film that that portrays DID quite well, that I had never heard of or seen or anything. a film called Frankie and Alice that Halle Berry did, and I think that I want to watch that, and then I can sort of review that one and talk to you guys about that one. But again, I didn't know anything about that one, and anytime sort of split personalities are brought into popular media, immediately they're seen as the villain, and it's just really hard. It's for real people. Again, I'll link this video that the Entropy System did just before Split came out, and she basically got a load of different systems' voices. A load of different systems came forwards and shared their experience, and yeah, it's just a shame because it perpetuates the myth that we're somehow more dangerous than a normal person. Normal being, we're just people. We're just the same as everybody else, except for we have to deal with lots of other people up here. And sometimes that can be difficult, but it doesn't mean that we're necessarily, because of that, gonna go out and kidnap and murder people. So yeah, unlike, a lot of other people with DID, I don't hate everything about the film. There were a lot of parts that I could, for example, if I was explaining it to somebody or saying this is what it looks like, I could use parts from the film. There's a lot of truth in it, and I just wish they hadn't mixed it so much. But that'll be it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I really hope you enjoyed this little video. Thanks for sticking around, thanks for subscribing, and give it a like, put a comment down in there, so I know what you guys are interested in. But thank you so much for watching, have a really good day, and bye!